So we have a simple logic file here, and it's a very simple basic prompt. No tools, a single prompting strategy. What we're going to do is set up an evaluation. Now, evaluation suite allow us to assess the output of any logic function. The interesting thing is that you can start to also assess the output of intermediary steps. So let's set up a test case, right? It's going to be in the same folder. And right from here, we can actually add test cases. I didn't even know that. So let's add a string length, right? So we don't want anything that's too long. We want to make sure that the function outputs, the string length of the function output passes, you want to decrease it. So it should be more than, I don't know, 100. We're going to add a test case. We're going to call this test case 1. I'm just going to pause and add a couple of them. So I've added 3 test cases, simple questions. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to save. I'm going to run this evaluation suite. There's a few things that need to happen. I need to import a couple of things. I'm just going to import all the missing resources. And that looks all good. I'm going to run this test case once. I can put 10 in parallel. I'm going to run the evaluation suite. I'm going to pause here. When it's done, come back. Okay, so we've had the test run. Now we can see that it's actually quite interesting. So let's open the eval suite file itself, and we can now start to assess the run that just happened. So run once, it gave us what the output was. You realize that obviously to explain cars, there's a lot of length with that. The string length was 1,000. There's a much simpler answer. The answer is 25. With test case 2, you also see that it was smaller, but it still didn't pass the threshold. So obviously you can change the threshold, change a couple of things, then let it run again. The more interesting thing that we want to start looking at is run history dataset. So I'm going to create a run history dataset from this. What I'm going to do now is then change the evaluator, right? So I'm going to click on edit evaluation suite, change this evaluator. I'm going to give it a bit 1,000 and say make the response as concise as possible. Right, so I'm going to save that. We're going to run this, going to exit the mode. I'm going to now run this again. Pause. Okay, so that's done. So we still have test case 1 failing. It's got over 1,000 in terms of string length. What I can do now is I can either go to result or the metric dashboard, which I think is more interesting for seeing certain metrics. So the baseline here is going to be the very initial report, and then I'm going to compare that with the most recent one. You can already see that, first of all, let's forget about duration. We have more concerned about string length. The most recent one didn't have much of a difference, did it? The mean string length of the most recent one was more than the previous one, but I think we also upped the threshold. So just indicating that we should make the response as concise as possible didn't work. Let's say keep it under 1,000 words. I'm going to save and run. Now that's done, I can compare against the most recent one. Once again, there doesn't seem to be much of a difference, right? Okay, well, there is a 21% drop. So we're having the mean around 465, what we can actually do is view the tests, and you can see that we are, oh, I meant to say 1,000 characters. And save and run. Cool. Finally, fourth report is run. Oh, look at that. We're seeing all of them under 1,000 characters, right? So it actually is meeting the requirement. You can also see it from the aggregate metrics. Over here, we're having everything under 1,000. So that's brilliant. Now, one of the things that I was showing was the fact that we have this data set building every time that we run that. So you can see all the test cases have been run. And this is something that we can feed into the ontology. So it's good to be able to then build your own UI, because you still have the evaluators that are being persisted to that data set, and then you can use that. You can build your own UI in Workshop, depending on how exactly you want to modify it. So one of the things that I struggle with if I'm comparing side by side, right? I can group by test cases. It's kind of like difficult to see. Also, it's not rendered in Markdown. Quite a lot of the reporting that you do is rendered in Markdown. Ideally, you want to be comparing the metrics, but you also want to be doing a glance through of that.